Good day, everyone. My name is Mark Johnston. Thank you for joining us for another fantastic sit down and talk through we have the pleasure of welcoming Trey Wasser from Elay Gold and David Garofalo from Gold Royalty, and a continued journey to learn about the transaction as these two companies come together in new energy. Trey and David, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for putting this together again, Mark. Always enjoy this format.
Great. And David, welcome to you. I'm going to, as always, gently step out of the way. I know there's a light presentation here for our viewers, so I will welcome everyone to send questions through the Q&A column, and do let us know where you're tuning in from in the chat window as well. So David and Trey, I'll pass this to you and come back in for the question after the presentation.
Well, thanks, Mark. I'll lead this thing off. Again, we're big, an update for everybody. We're very excited and, continue to do transactions on both sides. Seen some of the announcements and some more announcements to come as far as transactions on both the Elay and Gold Royalty side. And a quick update as of we've got overwhelming support for this transaction. As of yesterday, of the voting shares, we had 98.86 voting in favor of the transaction. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to talk a little bit more about the mechanics here, because we have had some issues with some shareholders as far as mostly on the election side. So I'm going to touch on that, and then David's going to go ahead and jump in and talk a little bit more about this market as it has evolved through the transaction, and again, why we're so excited about putting these two companies together, and then we'll leave plenty of time on the back end for those Q&As. So if your questions don't get answered here, especially on this mechanics as we come down to it, then be sure and get your questions up online. David will be making forward-looking statements. Me, I'm always looking in the rear view mirror here. So on the proxy vote, and I can't for all of you who and this is going to be most of you that have your shares with the broker. Everything has to be done through the broker. So I continue to urge you to contact your investment advisor. But I'm going to kind of in this update let you know where some people have been frustrated, and that certainly by here, if not today, tomorrow, or by the Monday of next week, all the brokers should be set up to be taking your election. So the information circular and proxy material, they have been mailed. Elay and Gold Royalty have done everything required by law as far as notifying the brokers about the entire transaction, the vote, and the election. Unfortunately, in this world of zero commissions and online brokerages, you get basically zero service, and the brokers are they unless being forced, they're really not following through with their obligations on this transaction. But for anybody who, the brokers are pretty much just sending you to our website. If you want to review the information circular or any of the proxy materials or anything, it's all on our website, and you can go there and look at it. But those are on there, and only for the registered shareholders. That is, people who have hold their own shares. Now they can download the proxy material and letter of transmittal and send those with their control number directly into AST, the transfer agent. In fact, that's the way they need to do that. Anybody who doesn't hold their own certificates is going to have to operate through their broker. So I know most of the brokers have been very efficient at setting up your ability to vote your proxy, and most have already done that. As far as making your cash or stock election, they have not been as good at that. And we are working diligently. We've actually had to go back and through Broadridge, where the voting platform was, and through CDS, which is and DT in Canada, and DTC in the US, we've had to put out a bulletin notifying these companies so that now the brokers are being forced to set up some type of a platform or the ability to take these orders. And the brokers don't individually send those in. For example, Canaccord, a big Canadian broker, they will send to AST one list of all the shares they have that for all their clients, and how many want the cash election and how many want the stock election, how many have not responded and made no election at all. And then when they will get one wire and one block of stock, and then they have to go back and divvy that up. So it is a lot of work for the brokers. And again, in this environment, they're if not forced to do something, it appears that they're more likely to, just let this default to where everybody gets the stock election. So I want to assure everybody that we're still on this. If by the first of the week your broker is not taking your election and you want the cash election, again, for those, if you want the stock election, that is the default. So if you vote your shares and don't make an election, you will be considered all stock. And so those all stock people, need not worry about this. But those with the cash election, if by Monday of next week your broker is not set up yet, and they're not allowing you to make that election, then you need to get on the hotline. We've now got 12 or 14 people on that hotline taking calls, returning calls, making outgoing calls. And Griffin is dealing directly with these brokers to make sure that they see this this bulletin, and that they're set up to take your election. So we'll stay on this right up until the 12th of August, which is the deadline for making the election. So again, any problems, call the hotline, and dealing directly with your broker. Those of you who have a broker, those of you who are on the TD Ameritrade and Schwab, I think you'll see that if you call them, starting today, tomorrow, they're going to be set up to take your election. So with that, I'm going to bring David in and slide forward. David, I think you can control the slides as well. If not, just let me know and I'll back them up. But for everybody, have David jump in here and talk about this this exciting merger and an update on the market in general here.
Thanks very much, Trey, and good morning, everybody, and thank you for taking the time. And I appreciate that the logistics of doing these types of deals can cause a little bit of anxiety, and I'm glad Trey spent a few minutes walking through that with you and the mechanics, and I'm sure we can take questions about that afterwards and offline as well. Reach out to Joanne or Trey or myself, anything we can do to help get this deal across the line. And I think it's really important to remind you why we think it's worth the pain of going through this and the mechanics and getting your shares tendered in elections and whatnot. And the three things I want to leave with you is the reasons we're doing this deal is 1, size, 2, quality, and 3, experience. And the combined company really is 1 + 1 = 3. By putting the companies together, we're creating scale, which gives us access to capital much more cheaply than we otherwise could get ourselves independently. That scale will lead to a re-rate, a higher multiple, which will drive down our cost of capital and make us much more competitive as we look to continue to add to our royalty portfolio. And as Trey pointed out, we've been active, even as this merger or post the merger announcement. Both Trey and his team and my team have been active out in the market buying royalties. We haven't stopped running our business and continuing to enhance the quality of the portfolio we have on an individual and a combined basis. And that scale and quality will drive that re-rate. We're an America's focused company on a pro forma basis after the merger in high quality jurisdictions with a significant mineral endowment underlying our royalties. North of 40 million ounces on a combined basis underlying the royalty portfolio. That's a lot of ounces in the ground that you have exposure to as shareholders and shareholders in the combined company. And together, that puts us in a world-class category, in my view, and definitely provides a quality distinction relative to our peers in the space. And I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail later on. And again, experience. I'm again delighted to have Trey join the board after the merger. And so we're going to be able to leverage his and Jerry's experience. Jerry's going to continue on with the organization as well and running that generative model, which complements our portfolio and our skill set within the management team of Gold Royalty. So you're getting the best of all worlds. You're getting a combined organization, combined portfolio, the quality of the portfolio, America's focus, which I think will lead to a significant re-rate opportunity for our shareholders as we put our operations and integrate them over the next little while. Trey, I will rely on you to advance the slides. I haven't figured out what button to push, so if you don't mind going to the next slide. So on a combined basis, you can see we're going to have significantly enhanced trading liquidity, much better coverage from the sell side, enhanced coverage. And I think that'll help with the trading liquidity, enhancing that as well. As you can see on a combined basis, very much America's focused with a royalty portfolio of our 100 royalties now. I think we're up to about 106, which puts us at the head of the pack in terms of those smaller cap royalty companies, which again provides a quality proposition, trading liquidity, potential for a significant re-rate, and a very supportive shareholder base, which I think is extremely important. Our founding shareholder at Gold Royalty, Gold Mining, will maintain a 20% or 26% interest on a pro forma basis. Eric Sprott, one of the smartest investors in the mining space, will continue as a shareholder at about 12%, our second biggest shareholder. And I think importantly, this is really very much a merger of equals. Even though Ely shareholders are getting significant premium on the deal, we're very almost evenly split in terms of our pro forma shareholding at about 55-45. So very much is a combination of forces. It's not a takeover, and having Trey and Jerry still involved in the organization, I think, indicates that better than anything else. Again, putting the skill set together, putting the assets together is really an important part of the re-rate opportunity that we hope to deliver to the shareholders on a combined basis. Just on to the next slide, Trey. So this is the portfolio, again, exclusively America's focus. It's not to say that we won't look at other jurisdictions, but what I would tell you is the criteria that will drive any investment decisions in new royalties will be geological model. We want a resource that has the potential to grow, to provide you leverage to exploration success. But we also want to be in jurisdictions that welcome mining. And I think that will maintain that quality proposition and distinguish us from some of the companies that tend to go into more politically risky jurisdictions. On a combined basis, 106 royalties at every stage, 4 producing royalties, 10 in the development stage. It will soon be producing cash flow, and almost another 90 odd in various stages of development. So that's quite a portfolio and pipeline of royalty opportunities that will continue to add value to and bring through the pipeline to enhance our cash flow. We'll see our cash flow on a combined basis increase 5 or 6-fold over the next 5 years as a number of these development stage assets start to come to fruition. And that's a tremendous upward trajectory in cash flow. And with the combined organization of only half a dozen employees, including Trey and Jerry, we think we could run this organization at 10 times the size with the same employee base. That's the beauty of the royalty model. It's eminently scalable, and every dollar we add to our revenue on the royalty side will essentially go to the bottom line because our costs are going to be quite fixed and very, very low. So Trey, on to the next slide, please. So again, I indicated this a little earlier on. When you look at our direct competitors in that sub $1 billion market cap category, we lead the pack in a couple of very important characteristics. One is the size and diversity of our portfolio, 106 royalties. When we started this process, when we launched the deal, we were actually at 99 royalties. So as I said earlier on, Trey and I have been very active adding to the portfolio. We recently added 5 royalties in Quebec. Trey's added a couple of royalties as well in a number of jurisdictions in the Americas. And so we're continuing to grow the portfolio even as we're waiting for this merger to happen. We're still open for business. And really what puts us in a position to be able to do that is a very, very strong balance sheet. On a combined basis today, we have about $90 million US in cash. We've been putting that capital to work. After the merger, depending on how Ely shareholders elect cash versus stock, we'll end up somewhere between $25 and $60 million of cash, but no debt on the balance sheet. As I said, with the re-rate opportunity and the combined basis, accessing capital really won't be a challenge for us. And we're actually working on putting a line of credit in place post the merger, which will give us access to capital on an expedited basis when we see opportunities. And so having a clean balance sheet with access to capital, lower cost of capital, really puts us in a very, very strong position relative to our peers in the space. The next slide, please. This just talks to the re-rate opportunity. And what I mean by that is Ely and Gold Royalty on our own are trading roughly around 1 times the underlying value of our business, or net asset value, as the brokers and sell-side analysts like to refer to. Companies of the kind of scale that we're going to achieve on a combined basis typically trade at 1.5 to 2 times the underlying net asset value. What that tells you is, on a combined basis, we think we have the potential, just by managing what we have in the portfolio today, to see a 50 to 100% increase in our share price through that re-rate opportunity, because we're achieving scale that gives us a greater weighting on the passive indices like the GDXJ, which we're already a part of, which means that the passive funds have to buy more of our stock. It creates a bit of a virtuous cycle. And so as we better promote the story, get out there and tell the story, we really have a high quality proposition, and we see a significant potential for a re-rate opportunity, which again further drives down our cost of capital and makes us more competitive for royalty opportunities to further enhance and diversify our combined portfolio. And slide number 9, please. And I think this is another key distinguishing feature relative to our peers in the space, and the number is a little bit out of date. We brought on a couple of people, including Trey and Sam Ma, our VP Evaluations. We're actually at about 300 years of combined experience in the mining space, and I would say we're heavily skewed towards operating experience. I've come from an operating background, as many of you may have known from our last call. I spent over 30 years running operating companies, building mines. That's true for a lot of our board and management, including Alistair Still, Ian Telfer, Alan Hare. These are operating people, which I think is important because, one, it gives us a clear-eyed view of the underlying risk of the assets we're taking royalties in. We understand how operators think. We understand the risks of the projects. So before we put capital to work, we do a lot of due diligence on these opportunities to make sure that we're going to achieve the double-digit rates of return on the capital we're allocating that we promised to our shareholders. You're entrusting us with your savings and your capital, and you're expecting to get strong rates of return. That requires a lot of due diligence in the opportunities that we're putting money to work in. We want to make sure that they're a sufficiently low risk profile, that we're going to get the returns that we promise our shareholders. And having that technical expertise on our board and management, I think, is an important and key distinguishing feature. And frankly, when I look at the rest of the royalty players in the space, they're run by people that have never built anything other than a spreadsheet. They've never built mines. And that's what we offer. And it also gives us access, because many of us have been operating in the senior space for a long time. So we're able to access royalty opportunities on a bilateral basis before they're available at an auction process, which drives up the price for these assets. So we're really getting these assets before they're available in the marketplace, and hopefully getting them at much lower cost with a much higher rate of return opportunity for our shareholders. And then the final slide, I think I've hit on all these before. Again, the quality proposition is really experience, quality of the underlying portfolio, and scale. I think that's what we deliver on a combined basis, which I think is a very compelling opportunity for both Gold Royalty and Ely shareholders. And thank you for your attention this morning.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for a great tour through where things are right now with the transaction and an update on some of the fine details. It's been quite a journey with you already. This is not our first gathering to walk through the situation with investors. And I have my regular coffee mug. It's only the hat that changes. I think we'll need to continue these meetings above and beyond. We'd like to turn focus here, folks, to the questions from the audience, and they are coming in from all over the place. I noticed we had some folks in Silicon Valley, various parts of Canada, and elsewhere. So we'll just jump right in here with the Q&A. Gentlemen, First question comes forward that asks, are there any plans to list on the TSX?
Yeah, we are looking at a Canadian listing. Our focus right now is just getting this deal done and the mechanics of that, but we will be looking at a Canadian listing in due course.
Okay, thanks very much, David, for that. A couple of questions around share price and the choreography of what happens between now and later this month as things move forward. Curious, why is the Elay stock still trading below the 1.46 Canadian cash offer? Any thoughts, sir?
I'll jump in here on that.
Please.
I think typically on these type of deals you would see the arbitrage hedge funds jumping in, balancing out, shorting the gold royalty stock, buying the Elay stock to the point that they could get this evened out. In this case, there's because of the gold royalty being a new spin out, just with the recent IPO in February, there's really not a lot of stock held that's in accounts where it's available for the hedge funds to borrow it to short. So we don't see the typical hedge fund activity in there. Now, of course, at first we saw a lot of the gold royalty and people buying gold royalty stock. The stock ran up, and it's now come back down to where I think as of yesterday it was trading right about the $1.46 number. But remember, the $1.46 is not all cash, and these deals they'll typically be a bit of a discount. But I think with Elay stock trading around $1.30 and the stock value on the all stock side of $1.46, there's still an attractive arbitrage in there for people who want to buy the stock today and are going to choose the all stock option. The window is closing very quickly, and I saw this question come up, so I'm going to go ahead and hit on it here. Is in order the date for the election to make the cash election. And right now, I would guess if I had to, somebody held a gun to my head, is say that probably the people who request all cash, for sure they're not going to get all cash because the cash amount is limited at 84 million. But I would think that the over/under number is 50 cents a share in cash. And the balance in stock. So again, that makes it a little more difficult for people to, they can if they want the all stock, but they're not sure how much cash they're going to get if they take the cash. So buying it for an arbitrage and closing that is difficult. I will say that with the election date on the 12th, you would have to own this. That'd be next Thursday. So 3 days earlier on the 9th, which I believe is Tuesday, Monday, maybe Monday. That's the last day you could actually buy the stock and be a shareholder of record to make an election on the 12th. So, okay. Yeah, I would say for all intent and purposes, that window, while not closed, is very is barely open, and I wouldn't encourage anybody to run out and buy the stock today who definitely wants to make the cash then execute the cash option. But anybody who buys wants the stock option will be able to buy the stock right up until the execution date. The vote date is the meeting is on the 17th. It'll probably take us a couple more days after that. I think we're using maybe the 23rd, David, if that's not right, as kind of we've got to get into the court for the final approval. Okay. And so that's a number that we not really sure of, but you literally be for people who want the all stock option, be able to buy the stock right up until that final date, and you would get the stock exchange. Okay.
Trey, thank you very much that's a great tour through some of the key dates and choreography leading up to the actual transaction. And forgive me if we've answered this to some extent, but I want to make sure I'm asking it clearly. The question comes in, is Elay and the GROY share conversion based on the GROY share price on August the 17th?
No, that ratio and the cash was locked in back in March, actually a couple weeks prior to announcing the deal.
Mhm.
So if you choose the all stock option, it will be 2.245 Groy shares for every Ely share.
Okay.
If you take the cash option, you will get some amount of cash, like I said, probably 50 cents, and then the balance of that dollar. So depending on the cash, it'll be like 0.15 shares or 0.17 shares in cash. If it's more cash, obviously the ratio drops down. But the ratio, even for the cash, is based on the $1.46 price, which was set back when the deal was announced, and the 0.245. So it's just the amount of stock you get is the amount of cash minus the amount of cash you get on the cash option, and then it's that your ratio then of shares will be based on that 2.245 less the amount of cash you got, obviously.
Great. Thank you, Trey. Just to move over to share price here and specifically focus on Gold Royalty, any thoughts here on why the G-Roy share price has been falling over the past 5 weeks?
It's been on very, very low liquidity. And what I would say is actually the share price is up since the announcement. And what that tells you is that the market and our shareholders in particular are very receptive to the transaction and the potential for significant value creation on a combined basis. So I'm very, very happy. I think when we announced the deal, the implied bid was around $1.40, and now we're close to $1.50, just under $1.50 per share for these shareholders. So that tells you that there's been value creation even since we announced the deal.
Okay.
And I would also add to that this market, for those of you who aren't real active in the gold equity market, and even let's be more specific to the royalty space, has been very weak. So I've been tracking some of the other royalty companies. Franco-Nevada is certainly an exception because they are in a real sweet spot here with resources, metal resources and oil. But pretty much the major companies are maybe flat to down a bit. Some of the other mid tiers like the Metalla and Mavericks are down really close to anywhere from 10 to 15% since our deal was announced. So the truth is that the Gold Royalties has held up very, very well, and compared to our peers in the industry there.
Okay, great. Thank you, gentlemen, for both those inputs. Just curious on when it comes to timing and where things move from here. The question comes in, what is the opportunity set to further consolidate the space? It seems like G-Roy will need to further bulk up its size to get to the 1.5 to 2 times NAV, the multiple referenced earlier. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, look, I think there's a couple of avenues for us to grow, I think, quite significantly. As I said a little early on, both Trey and I have still been active picking up individual royalties, and we picked up 5 since we announced the deal. Trey's picked up a couple as well. So we continue to grow through that avenue, and that's still a very fruitful way for us to grow our business. And I would say in both of those cases, those were opportunities that we had exclusivity on. We didn't have to compete in cattle calls, as it were. So we were able to pick up those royalties, I think, at a fairly cost-efficient basis with high rates of return. But as you saw in the graph that had our peers, there's a lot of these sub-$1 billion market cap companies, and they're kind of dead in the water. It's very, very difficult for them to compete. Many of them can't access capital, so they can't grow their royalty portfolio. So I think there is an avenue for us to further consolidate in the space. We'll continue to look at that. If we see value accretion opportunities doing that, we will do it. And we're certainly equipped with the board management we have to do M&A as well. So we can grow through a couple of avenues. And 6 or 7 years ago in the royalty space, there was that game of musical chairs that happened then. I think back in 2013 and 14, there was a proliferation of these smaller royalty companies that came into the space. They found it difficult to compete and access capital because they didn't have the scale. And there was a round of consolidation. And so there is a rationalization that's likely coming in the space. And particularly in this kind of soft tape for gold equities, they're having a particularly difficult time raising capital and competing.
Okay, thank you for that, David. A couple of other questions here. There's one in the regulatory realm here. Curious, can U.S. brokers receive unregistered GROY shares to be traded under the U.S. Securities Act as described in the Circular Securities Law Matters, United States?
Trey,
We may have lost Trey for the moment, David. We'll wait for him to tune back in. Are we okay to move forward with that?
Yeah, so I guess what I would say is if you're tendering your stock, your daily stock, you're going to get freely trading stock on the exchange if you elect to get shares. And the warrant holders should know that under the terms of their indentures post the deal, if they roll into go royalty warrants, then they are subject to the restrictions under the indenture. And so read your indenture carefully. If you do exercise your warrants before the deal closes and tender your stock, then you're going to get freely trading stock. And Trey, I don't know if you'd heard the question before you dropped off, but Mark can repeat it if you hadn't.
No, I've got it. Yeah, I mean, the warrant holders, again, for warrant holders that are in the money, you still have ample time here if you contact us directly or through your broker. But I would do it quickly, and you'll get those free. We'll make sure that your Ely shares are sent. Go in for the stock or cash portion if it's done right away. And warrant holders will have, like I mentioned, people purchasing in the open market have a little bit of extra time, except for that after the August 12th date, or really next week, August 9th, you won't have a chance to exercise those warrants and take the cash option. And I think, I mean, David, you commented whether we won't. David's right to look to the indenture, and we will look to getting those warrant shares registered as quickly as possible. But we're assuming that people who don't exercise their warrants here prior and get the free trading stock are not anticipating also exercising their warrants within the next 60 to 90 days either. So, within some time frame here, depending on other transactions and other registrations, those shares would at this point be required to have a 6-month hold on them.
Okay, thank you, Trey. That makes sense from both sides. Next question here around the transaction itself. For someone who's a Canadian resident and an Ely warrant holder, can you please comment on the restrictions placed on GROY shares issued upon exercise of the warrants, and any commitments and timeframes GROY is making about what it will do to allow them to trade the shares they would receive upon warrant exercise?
I think we just covered that. Yeah, go ahead, David.
Yeah, no, I was just going to reiterate that if you want absolute assurance that you're getting freely trading stock, exercise your warrants before the deadline, and you will get freely trading stock on the conversion if you elect for stock. Okay. Otherwise, you'll have to rely on the indenture, and what that allows, whether you get freely trading stock or not after the merger is completed, really is dependent on the terms of your indenture.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying, David.
And I just might, what David is saying there is that on the Ely side, we had, several different types and warrant indentures all warrant holders don't have the exact same warrant. So you really have to do it treated to your specific warrant.
Great. Thank you for clarifying. And talking about currency conversion here, the question comes: is $1.46 Canadian currency, and if so, what's the conversion rate to US dollars that you'll be using?
So this is a good question. The deal, of course, is two Canadian companies in Canadian dollars, $1.46, and so any cash portion for those taking cash will be issued It'll be up to your broker to convert. Obviously, nobody on our end. We can't convert for everybody on into U.S. dollars. AST will be issuing to the broker in Canadian dollars, and your broker will decide. Some of you will have the option of keeping the funds in a Canadian. I know at some of the accounts, if you have a Canadian broker like Canaccord or Haywood, they'll allow you to keep those funds in Canadian if dollars and convert it at a different time if you so choose. But I think for the bulk of people with the U.S. online brokers, for example, and other U.S. brokers, it'll be up to that broker to for the conversion rate and on the payment date.
Okay, thank you for that. We have quite a meaty question here, and these ones always fantastic to ask. If Elay shares are in a Canadian TFSA, they have US dollars TFSA, but nothing in it. If they choose the all stock option, where would ultimately the GROY shares end up?
Well, just to be clear, even though we're NYSE listed, we're a Canadian company. We're BC domiciled, registered under the BC securities laws. So it's still a Canadian company. So as far as I know, and please check with your tax advisor, and I know enough tax to be dangerous. It's an eligible investment for a TFSA, I'm sure, or for RRSP or ESP or self-directed funds of the like. But please do check with your tax advisor. Okay, fair enough. Terrific. Thank you for that. Curious here, what happens if you buy shares in the open market today? You don't get to vote, but you get the cash and the GROY shares if it goes through. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. If you buy them today, and you buy them anytime, I think it would be Monday where you would actually have the shares in your account to make that election by the 12th. Okay. But again, you'll have to that election deadline for the cash will be the 12th. So you're getting very close to, like I said, that window is shutting a little bit every day, basically. And you're going to want to be careful of doing any last minute trades unless you're happy with the all stock option. Terrific. Thank you for that. As you say, that the time is winding down for that. And again, kudos to both of you for being this open with our town halls to continuously answer questions from curious investors. Next question here, I'd like to ask, aside from Wainwright, can we expect some of the major Canadian brokers or US brokers to pick up coverage? I certainly hope so. We're paying them enough. We're using advisors here. BMO's our advisor, and BMO, I think, runs one of the biggest mining franchises in the world. And I do expect them to pick up research coverage. Okay. LBS has been advising Trey and Ely, and again, there's no reason why they wouldn't pick up research coverage. And that's part of the appeal of achieving scale is we're harder to ignore the bigger we are. Fair enough. Yeah, I can comment on that too. Is that Laurentian will be picking up coverage on the backside, as will Noble. The two, in fact, I think Noble's actually already put out a note to shareholders on this and initial coverage. So I think you're going to see a lot of additional coverage. And while we're kind of on this side, I want to go back because I didn't want to interrupt David in his presentation, but just letting kind of reinforcing something as far as the management board and experience here that we have looking at this slide. And how important it is in the industry, the competitive advantage that you have in this industry, and what has made Jerry and I the ability to be successful in Nevada is we knew everybody in Nevada, and we knew the old prospectors, we knew a lot of the companies, as our shareholders know, we did a lot to consolidate claim packages and do things, and so we were able to put transactions together. And I can't stress enough that this experience, not only how many people, just the contacts, but also with this depth of operating experience, is that obviously at the major level with the major companies, they're not really looking to it. But when you look to the mid-tier and the emerging production companies, the development, exploration and development companies that are for the first time moving into the production phase, they look to the royalty holders in a competitive environment for help. And the amount of help with people like Alistair Still and the technical advice and people like David and the rest of the directors there who have built mines and know how to do this and know the development stage. This is very important competitive advantage that we will have in competing from royalties for companies as they transition from exploration and development to production, and look to the royalty to not only provide capital, but some of this experience and expertise.
Very good. I see David nodding. Anything you want to add there, David?
No, I think he's nailed it on the head. So
okay.
Thanks very much.
Perfect. We will move on. Question here from one of our audience members. Holding Ely and Gold Royalty stock at Schwab, they've not seen documents yet to make the election on whether to receive cash or shares. Any comments on that?
We are working very hard. I mean, as I said, these online brokerages, this is a force feeding for them. They were all very good about. I know the paperwork went out. The circular went out last Tuesday. My shares a week ago Tuesday at this point. I mean, and by Tuesday afternoon, I had an email from TD Ameritrade, where I hold a few shares, to vote the proxy. I've yet to have been able to convince them that they also need to make an election. But we're working very hard. We have actually gone through CDS, which is the regulatory and transfer agent, underlying transfer agent, DTC in the U.S., and put out to them bulletins. And the bulletin forces by law the brokerages to set this up. So if by the first of the next week, certainly Schwab, TD Ameritrade, I saw Fidelity come up here, these big firms we will be in direct contact with through Griffin to make sure their back offices are set up and that they're either sending out emails, or if you call those help desks, they're aware of this. And we're making them aware. DTC is making them aware. And so if by Monday, I wouldn't stress too much more on it today and tomorrow, but by Monday, if you still are not, if you're calling your Schwab desk and they still don't know about this, then I would encourage you to get on the hotline. The hotline has been very well manned here, and they will walk you through. If they have to, they'll get Schwab back office on the line with you and say, this guy needs to get his election in. So, like I said, we will be doing a full court press as of the first of next week, and we want to make sure everybody can get their election in. And again, I'll stress that Ely and Gold Royalty have done everything we're required to do by law, and now we're going above and beyond in with these brokers. But this is in a land of zero commissions, it also appears to be zero service.
Okay, right. Fair point. Thank you for that, Trey. I feel called to ask about the hotline because you mentioned it. I know it's out there, but just to be efficient here, can we just share the hotline with the audience, please?
Yeah, that hotline number is 1-800. Let me get back to the slide so everybody can see it and write it down as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is 1-800-833-261-9730. And I can tell you that is manned by 12 people. We're looking to add a couple more. But if you get a message there, if they're busy, and I encourage people to leave your phone number, you will get a call back in short order on that. So, I think especially right this minute, I see where Marshall is out there, can't get through right now. I think that's because a lot of people on this call are out calling in right now. But and Marshall, of course, you have my phone number as well. So don't hesitate to call me, and I'll help you walk you through this and make sure you get your election in as well.
Terrific. Thanks for clarifying that, Trey. I appreciate that. A few more questions coming in. It's been a busy slate here of Q&A coming in from all over. A question came in around royalties, so I just want to check in on that as well. Someone's asking it's more details on the last investment at Monarch Mining. It seems there are 5 new royalties added. Can you give an estimation about how much gold they will bring per year? If they can give an estimate maybe of over a 5-year period, how much revenue from the company, the revenue company could bring up, that would be very helpful.
So there are 2 things that drew us to that opportunity. One was investing in the Abitibi Greenstone Belt, which is one of the most prolific gold districts in the world. And it's one that I have a long history in. When I was with Agnico Eagle, we built a number of mines there along that trend. And Jean-Marc Lacoste is one of the best operators in that region. So we're investing as much in the region as we are the people. And he has a plan to restart operations. This is a brownfield project, the Beaufort mine and the Beaufort mill. We took a royalty on the mill and everything that's going through the mill and the surrounding properties. And he expects to restart operations next year. He's announced a financing not only with us, but with Investissement Québec. So the Quebec government's put capital into this to restart operations next year. So we'll see first revenue from the Beaufort mill and mine next year. And we expect over the course of the next 5 years at current gold prices, we'll actually get all of our investment back. And given the significant exploration potential there, we think we're going to be there for decades. And so we expect to achieve very, very significant rates of return on this investment with strong operators in a strong geological setting.
Great. David, thank you very much. Trey, anything to add there, or are we okay?
No, this is, we're very excited about this transaction. This is with Monarch, something we looked at Ely, probably over a year ago. Liked these assets very much, but at the time they weren't the key assets. They had their Wasamac property that was really their flagship at that point, and they were putting all their emphasis there. So we backed away a bit because while we liked the properties and we liked the people very much, we didn't see that as being their their primary focus. And of course, they have now done a transaction with Yamana, where Yamana has taken over the Wasamac project, and these the Balfour, and I've been on these properties. I've been at the Beacon Mill in the past, so I know the quality of the properties. And now that this is their primary focus, we're very excited that David and his team was able to put this transaction together.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen, for both. Okay, we're going to move into the math space a little bit. I'll try to do this without using my fingers and toes. We have a question. It's sort of a sample share exchange to make sure things are understood here. So let's walk through this carefully. Let's say, for example, 1,000 Ely Gold shares, US shares, convert at 0.245 equals 245 gold royalty shares at today's price equals $4.84 US dollars, and has a US dollar value after the acquisition of $1,185.80. Is that the correct math, gentlemen?
That would be the correct math in US dollars. So if somebody then is looking at their current Ely shares of $1,000 at the current price, say that number again?
So it's 1,000 Ely US shares convert at 0.245 equaling 245 gold royalty shares at today's price equals $4.84 US dollars. And that's where the question has a US dollar value after the acquisition of $1,185.80.
Okay, yeah, and that would compare in the market to without bothering with this Canadian exchange ratio, if you look at the quote for ELYGF on the US right now, I believe, call it 103, 102. So 1,000 shares would have a value in today's market of call it 1,020, 1,030 dollars. So that would be correct. You actually are, on that shows you on the exchange that you're exchanging something that trading in the market today for about $1,020 to, depending on the exact price, 1,030. And yet you're going to get Groy shares worth $1,185.
Okay. Terrific. Thank you for that. Thanks for holding space for that. And Robert, I hope that helps you out. Question coming in from a U.S. citizen here holding Eli warrants. They don't have a Canadian account, but who can they contact to expedite exercising the option for Eli stock before the deadline?
You would want to contact us directly. So anybody who's interested in exercising warrants early, I'm going to, any of the press releases you can look at, but I can't really post it up here. But you can call the direct number at Ely, or for warrant holders, you can call me directly at 972-803-3087. And if you need to look up that number, look at any of our press releases. Historically, my number, my direct line has always been on there. So if you call me directly, I will set you up with our corporate secretary, Steve Kenwood, and we'll walk you through the warrant exercise, get you the wire instructions to wire that in. As soon as we get you the money, we will send you the shares, and we'll include with the shares the letter of transmittal, and you will just send those directly into AST, and the instructions are all on there. And for those warrant holders, I know it's a little difficult now, but trust me, we are walking people through this directly, either with themselves or with their brokers, to make sure they get those shares back right away from us. And even if you have a broker in the U.S. and you want to exercise your warrants, either have that broker call us, call me, call it directly, and we'll get you walked through to make sure you get those. Again, for warrant holders, we're getting very close to the point of making that a cash election. But for those just wanting to exercise and get the free trading shares and on the stock election, we've got plenty of time to get it done, but it is a process. And along those lines, I might also say that if there's not very many. I think the list in the U.S. is only 12 registered shareholders, and I know I'm two of those because of I'm on the list going way back for some Ely Gold and Mineral shares. But if anybody is having trouble or has any questions with their registered shares of sending them in, and because the registered shareholders, and if you are a registered shareholder and you have not received your package with the control number on it, then again, my direct line, 972-803-3087, those registered shareholders, give me a call. We'll make sure that you get your paperwork filled out and get your control number. You can also go through the hotline on that, but we just this is a little bit more complicated and especially with the warrant holders, is call us directly and we'll make sure you're taken care of.
Terrific. Trey, thank you for the openness there. We're heading towards the top of the hour here, so really just time for another question or so. Want to ask here, is there a concern about any potential forced selling of gold royalty stock once the transaction closes from holders, for example, who wanted all cash? And what can you do to mitigate this?
Well, I think we have a very tightly held shareholder base, and to reiterate what Trey said earlier on, nobody could even borrow our stock. The ARBs couldn't play it, and so there is a receptive audience for our stock. If there are people that are looking to sell the stock post the merger. I hope we don't, because, as I said, I see a significant re-rate opportunity. But believe me, there are buyers within our strategic shareholding base that want more stock, and they'll buy it. And you could see that post the announcement. There was strong support for this deal in the marketplace. We actually saw increased buying from our existing shareholder base because they were very supportive of the transaction. And I do believe they're going to be there to support the stock post the merger.
Okay. Thank you, David. Great. Just a moment or two left here, gentlemen. I always want to leave the door open for anything that's come to mind during the course of our journey here. But let me just finish with this question. Are the royalties Elays picked up since the merger was announced organically created through property sales or purchased? And any insights on these or potential future deals in the Nevada jurisdiction?
Well, look, we have one royalty deal that was purchased that we'll be announcing here in the next within the next week. We're just firming the second part and getting that closed. We've done a couple of property transactions, one that's been closed and one that is on the in the final stages. So those would be property sales as opposed to absolute royalties. So I would say it's been a combination of both.
Okay, thank you, Trey. At this point, a moment or two before our power hour is winding down, gentlemen, I would like to hand the mic back to both of you just to end in an energy of anything else that's come to mind to share as we continue to watch this transaction unfold.
Well, no, look, I just want to thank everybody for their time this morning and very, very good questions that came out of this. And we appreciate all the support we've gotten up to this point. As Trey said, we have almost 99% of the shareholders that voted to this point supporting the transaction. So I think that speaks to the potential re-rate opportunity, the significant lift that we expect to see in the stock as we integrate the organizations and promote the company and start to add more royalties to the portfolio. We're very, very excited to be putting our combined talents and portfolios together.
Thank you, David. And Trey, over to you.
Again, we're very excited here, and I just without harping any more on the deal itself, I just want to assure everybody that we will be here up until the 11th hour to make sure that you get your elections in, and so we're manning the lines and returning calls, and for those people that that aren't satisfied with the hotline, my number is available there. I can assure you, I've got a list of people here that I'm personally dealing with. So I'm willing to spend 24/7 here up until the end, helping shareholders with a successful transaction here. So anybody who's getting frustrated out there, be patient. We're going to get this done, and we're going to get this done to everybody's satisfaction.
Fantastic. Gentlemen, thank you. From our perspective, I applaud both of you for the openness and candid nature of walking us through the details ongoing through the transaction as it comes closer and closer. Thank you for the time today. I know we've had a very abundant audience from many locations asking very sharp questions, and I think the answers were equally open and very useful. So once again, it's been a fantastic town hall setting with both of you. Best of luck with the continued energy and business moving forward. And of course, as always, we'll be watching closely. So thank you for your time.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen. To everyone else for joining us. All the best, Trey and David, and to everyone watching and tuning in, thanks for your participation. We look forward to seeing where things go from here. All the best.
Thank you, guys.